Hello everyone! In this lesson we're going to be talking about intercepts. So by the end of the lesson you should be able to use the slope formula to find both the x and the y intercepts of a line. Okay, so the first thing we have to ask or figure out is what even is an intercept? Well, in math, an intercept is where an equation crosses either the y-axis, the x-axis, or possibly another equation. But for this, we're just going to look at the x and y-axis. So the point where our equation crosses the x-axis is called the x-intercept. And the point where our equation crosses our y-axis is called the y-intercept. So we have our x-intercept in red and our y-intercept in green. Now, an intercept is always going to be a point. Let's look at our y-intercept first. That's where our equation crosses the y-axis. So because it's going to be a point, it needs to be an ordered pair or a coordinate. So if I look at the x value of this point, our x value is 0 because we're sitting right in that 0 position. And our y value is 6. It's kind of hidden under my dot. Our y-intercept will always have a value of 0 for its sort of x value. Conversely, let's look at our x-intercept. Now remember, our x-intercept is that point where the equation crosses our x-axis. And so our x value is -2 and our y value is 0. So you'll see that our y-intercept has a value of 0 for x and our x-intercept has a value of 0 for y. So by looking at a graph, it's very easy to tell what the y and x intercepts are. When we look at an equation, we have to take a few steps before we can figure it out. So recall from our example above, our y-intercept had a coordinate of 0, 6, which means that when the x value is equal to 0, the y value is equal to 6. Same thing is true for the x-intercept, but the opposite. When the y value is 0, our x value is 2. So what we're going to do is use that information to solve for our x and y variables. So I'm going to solve for my y-intercept first. To do that, I'm going to substitute a value of 0 for x, because if you remember, when our point crosses our y-axis, our x is 0. So I'm putting in a 0 for our x value, and then I'm just going to rewrite the rest of the formula. Sorry, the equation, not formula. Now, notice I have just one variable, y, which means I can solve for y. So 2 times 0 is 0, and that leaves me with y minus 4 is equal to 0. And if I put that 4 on the other side, I'm left with y is equal to 4. So my coordinate of my y-intercept is x is 0 and y is 4. So let's do the same thing, but for the x-intercept. So again, I'm going to be substituting a value of 0 in. Now, we want to find our x-intercept, which means that point on the line that it crosses the x-axis. So when it's crossing the x-axis, that means our y value is going to be 0. And now what I'm able to do is solve for that x variable. And so if I just reorganize my equation, I have 2x on the left, and I'm going to put this 4 over there, and so that becomes a positive 4 because it was initially a negative 4. divide both sides by 2, so that cancels out, leaving me with x is equal to 4 divided by 2, which is 2. And so our x-intercept coordinate is 2, 0. So that's basically all there is to it when we're working with an equation. You take the value of 0 and sub it in for either x or y, depending on what you're trying to find. If you're trying to find the y-intercept, then you sub in 0 for the x, because we need to leave or solve for y. And if you're finding the x-intercept, then you're subbing that 0 in for y and leaving that x in the equation so that we can solve for the x. Here's your homework for the lesson. Make sure to do the intercepts investigation and go over some practice problems as well.